Hi guys, Goresh here. I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the current state of Dokkan Battle and the effect that the newly released LR Kale and Caulifla could potentially have on the future of the game. If you guys aren't aware, this LR released a few days ago on the JP side of Dokkan. If you guys aren't familiar with the card, I'll leave a link to it in the description of the video. It's pretty obvious that they're like far and away the best character in the game, and it's not really close. There's some other good units in the game that were considered the best for a long time, like LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku, LR Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, and LR Goku and Frieza. And I think LR Vegito and LR Gogeta were a little bit lower down. Um, but I mean, all these units are basically fodder compared to the LR Kale and Caulifla at this point, and that's become pretty apparent as we've begun to learn more and more about them over the past few days since they've released. So basically, I just wanted this unit to be about this video to be about the unit's impact on the game and the implications that something like this could have on the future um, of the game. And I'm not alone. I'm actually here with two guests that most people in the community should know. We have D Free and DatruthDT here. So
Yo,
Yo,
yeah.
what's up?
So I know that both of you guys have used the unit already, and you guys have each have had some personal experience with just how game breaking they are. Um, and I don't use the term game breaking lightly. I think I've only used it for a few other units
Broken.
I've released. So why don't we start with how each of you would compare the unit to other existing summonable LRs in the game? So why don't we start with you, D-Free?
I don't compare them to anything. Oh, what do you what do you mean? You already said everything. Like they're far and away better than everything else in the game.
So in terms of offensive capabilities, like, is there any other unit in the game that could come close to them?
The only other one would be Goku and Frieza, but that's about it. I don't. Or how about this? A transformed Vegito, but that's very unlikely anyway. Like the thing about this unit is, um, and I don't know if when you look at the card, right? When you look at the card, you don't notice all of this. This is why, like, it's important. You said we found this out as we learned more about it through testing and stuff. But all of their stuff stacks, the attack gains, all of that stuff. For example, they themselves give themselves 30%. Like any other units on the team, like for example, ideally you'd have them alongside their TUR and even potentially their SSR. Like that's 90% from 3 units. Their max passive isn't possible in the game right now, but like this offensive level, it's unprecedented while also being LR having access to that stat, the key multiplier gain that they get as well eventually. I don't think any other unit can compare. But in the best case scenarios, Goku and Frieza can get kind of close. That's about it, though.
All right, so the truth, what do you think about their defensive capabilities?
yeah, that to me, that's like I'm always a big fan of the defensive units just because like I enjoy Super Battle Road EZA a lot more. And it was using this unit at 55% is where I realized like how insane they were because I was using them like on the same team as the LR Super Saiyan 4s, and not only was Kale and Khalifa completely out damaging them, but like their defense was completely on a different league to what Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta was able to get to. Like, you know, a lot of people know him as one of the better defensive units in the game. He starts out with that really, really high defensive level, and only a few super attacks, and Kale and Khalifa are way past him because every single time they super attack, they're stacking their defense. Like a lot of the other LRs, right? Like I could think of like LR Goku Black stacks their defense, but it's better at the 18 key level. But Kale and Khalifa, it doesn't matter. Like 12 key, 18 key, they're raising their defense. So any of these additional supers, which are part of their passive, it'll be easier for them to get from the potential system because that has a chance to activate on all of the attacks anyway. And every single attack they do, they just get better defensively, more and more and more. And on top of that, that's just their defensive level. Then they have the chance to dodge too, up to 66%, which is like dodge is the most broken thing there is because you don't take damage. You can't take damage. So they can get above a 50% chance. It's a lot, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they also, contrary to Goku and Black, Goku Black LR, who was for a long time one of the better units, right? Um, contrary to that unit, they don't cap out. Like he's
Yep.
only going for like 3 turns. They just keep going, and if they are in a position where they're up against a specific boss, they can rattle off 4 supers a turn. That's a lot of gain.
And I think it's also important to mention that their passive includes pure Saiyans, which is literally like 80% of the game. So
Yes.
if you literally get a single key with this unit and they're at one key on a team that they're not even on the category for, they'll be launching a super attack and they'll probably launch another super attack because of the insane amount of additional attacks they get. So I mean, this team doesn't need any sort of support. It doesn't even need to be under a leader skill to do anything. So it's like, what's the point of this unit to be of being in the game in the first place? And that's sort of what I want to discuss.
That's a big thing, like on their passive, right? So like they get an additional attack buff for Universe 6, Joint Forces, and Pure Saiyans. But like again, like Pure Saiyans covers so much, so many top tier units, and even in the future, more top tier units are going to be Pure Saiyans constantly. And then like even when they do additional supers against Universal Survival Saga or Pure Saiyan category enemy, again, same thing. There's Pure Saiyan category enemies everywhere in every mode. So it's very easy for them to get these extra parts of their passive.
Yeah, I think people will look at this card and easily try to downplay it because of perceived lack of usability, where it's like, oh, no, they need this, they need that. It sounds like it's a little bit too much. But when you really break it down, as you guys just said, Pure Saiyans is going to be something that's going to be common, not just now, but forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to think any new Dokkan Fest card that's like Goku or Vegeta or whoever, Broly, whatever, you know, it's always going to be a good passive. And not just that, but if we get another duo card for Goku and Vegeta, for example, that's not in that's in Pure Saiyans, right? Because they're not fusing or whatever the case is, then that's another thing that they're able to go up against. It's going to always be the case, you know, and that's why this card is insanely good. But the thing about this card is that this is actually a really, really, really scary card because of what this card could do to the game going forward.
Yeah, that's what I want to sort of talk about. I think that was a good sort of intro to sort of sum up the card and just exactly it outlines how busted and overpowered, whatever word you want to use, that this unit really is.
Yeah, I think we've, if you don't understand at this point that this card is far and away better than everything else, and not just because of like the fact that it does the things that we mentioned, but also other things like everything in this unit. I mean, there's no way I can
their
sway.
leader skill we haven't even talked about.
there's no way I can sway anybody that doesn't see it already.
Yeah, I mean, Joint Forces has every single best unit in the game except for the LR Super Saiyan 4s. I mean, the category is essentially all-encompassing of every single good unit that will come out in the future. Imagine they release an LR Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and LR Super Saiyan Blue Goku that fuses into Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. They'll be in Joint Forces, and it's cards like that will just make this card better and better as the game progresses. Yeah. So, and I personally think, and I know a lot of people might not agree with this, but this unit is so good that I don't think it's good for the game in the long run.
I agree.
And that's where I want to take this video. If you actually graph out, and I haven't done this like technically, but if you graph out the average difficulty of events that have released in the game within the past 2 years, and you compare that to the average power level of units that have released over the past 2 years, the difficulty events is essentially horizontal. And the power level of units is just upward sloping constantly. And that gap between those two lines is increasing like rapidly. And I think with this unit, it's sort of finally reached a point where it's not healthy for the game.
And, you know, that wasn't always the case either, because for a while there, they kind of tapered off, and the new units weren't always going to be, like, busted or way more busted than the previous release. But then when they started easying more units and stuff like that, it just kind of got out of hand. But this unit here, the thing about them is, and you can already see it, you can already see the effects of this unit and what they'll have on the game in the fact that they didn't come alone. The other two units they came with are actually basically this card, but split up between two. Now, I've heard some talk, I haven't got around to testing it, but I heard that the Kale card can actually launch multiple supers the same way this card can and utilize the different names. Truth, have you been able to confirm that or not, or have you heard about that?
I've heard people say that, but I haven't gotten a chance to test her out yet.
I haven't gotten around to it because for the people that don't understand, like if you look at the terminology for the Kale and Caulifla card, the last part says they're guaranteed a super if you're up against Universe Survival Saga or Pure Saiyans, but really they get 2 supers if you're up against like UI Goku, for example. So Kale has the same exact passive. And then we take a look at Caulifla, who literally can't get hit. Guaranteed dodge. She literally can't get hit against certain enemies.
Yeah, I've been using that Caulifla in the Family Kamehameha EZA. Like, past stage 200. She doesn't fit on the leader skill, but she can't get touched. So it's a complete defensive ace.
I was actually talking to D3 about this before you joined, and we were talking about what was possibly going through the developers' minds.
You're such a cheater, Truth. I mean, I never even thought about that. You just go into EZA or like
any
Dokkan Battlefield and just body it.
She's a cheat code moving forward for any Pure Saiyan EZA. Like, think about how difficult the Super Saiyan 3 Goku one was when it first came out. Nowadays, we can just toss Caulifla at the start of the team. She can't be touched.
It's kind of dumb. And then meanwhile, Ultra Instinct is like crying in the corner with a dunce cap.
Well, wait, you said, the chance of like an LR UI Goku 90% chance to dodge. Sign me up.
Yeah, because
UI Goku is my favorite, so yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, because at this point, what does it matter? If we have this unit in the game, we have this Caulifla, this Kale, like, they can do anything they want. I mean, Garlic Jr., 100% damage reduction, like, why not?
Woo.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get to, though, with the point of the Kale and Caulifla individual cards, is you can already see that they're, like, not even caring. Because in any release prior to this batch of releases, they don't get the guaranteed things like dodge or guaranteed super attacks. Like, that's nutty. And then on top of that, like, the fact that they put those things on an LR card, too, to me, I made this joke with you, and I've been making this joke for the last few days, but honestly, I'm dead serious, man. I would not be surprised if they freaking made this card adhere to normal rules.
Yeah, you mean like adjust them in some way?
Yeah, like, I really wouldn't be surprised. I just wouldn't. Like, if they're like, oh yeah, let me actually make you cap out a 24 key multiplier, like all this other stuff.
But even that wouldn't even change the unit to a degree where it would become not the best unit in the game. They'd still be like by far the best.
Basically the best unit. Yeah.
But over the past few days, I've just been trying to think of like, what's the point of making this unit so good? Like, what was going through the developers' minds when they were trying to create a unit? Like, I assume they start out with what unit they want to make. That's step one. Step two,
the characters.
Skill. I think that's like the next most important thing to do for an LR, I would say. Step three, obviously, I think links are just sort of set based on the character. And then the big one is the passive. So, like, what were they doing when they made this passive? Like,
I can tell you what they were doing is they were trying to be cheeky, as they oftentimes try to do. They if you notice, the trend is every Caulifla card in the game is a dodge unit, basically. So what they wanted to do is, it's a join card. Let's make this card do exactly what their individual cards do. So the physical Kale has the additional attacks. Also has a chance to do supers. Also has the dodge.
Built the same way.
Caulifla too. Yeah, Caulifla does the exact same thing. She takes the sums of her parts. That's what they did with this card. Because really, like, we look at Caulifla, for example, she actually could have been way more broken than she actually is. And she's actually really, really good. So, like, they took the sum of their parts of their cards and tried to combine them into one, but apparently didn't test it. Apparently.
But where did the part of the passive where it just adds attack based off of like categories in their team come from? Is that part of? I don't think that's part of any other.
No, that's a new mechanic.
Like, so like what I was saying earlier is sort of jokingly, but honestly, it's not that far fetched. They literally created a list of all the abilities they wanted in the passive, and then we're just like, let's just put it all in.
Yeah, so I think that they had a baseline. Like, we're going to do the same thing that we've done with all these cards prior and include the dodge and the additional attacks with a chance to super. I think that was their baseline. They're like, is that different enough? Is that good enough? Let's just make them even better. Yeah. We've actually recently been doing this thing where we have mechanic where it's like, versus a specific enemy, let's add that too. And then somewhere along the way, it just became too much.
I mean...
You see, I would think that this Unit 2 wouldn't necessarily be that bad if they are intending to give some sort of big difficulty rise, but I almost don't think they're gonna because of that update they tweeted last night where, we'll be able to use 2 times stamina to get 2 times rewards. Like, I look at that, and the number one thing I think of is to cut down on the amount of time it takes to grind up Dokkan Fest units.
Yep.
So, like, an easy way to fix that would have been new difficulty level that costs more stamina and gives more medals. But if they're going to do this double stamina thing, I don't think they're about to do that, which is a problem.
Yeah, and that's something else I wanted to discuss. Like, just the power creep and how it interacts with future events that will come out. I mean, even Super Battle Road, they can't possibly create a hard enough event for this unit, and the reason for that is because if they did, every other unit would be underpowered in comparison to that event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
also,
like, yeah, go
things
ahead.
kind of change as time goes on too, because speaking of Super Battle Road and speaking of power creep just in general, the initial Super Battle Road stages were hard as hell
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
first. Nowadays, you can use those as exhibition stages to showcase.
Yeah.
The newer ones, they were absurd. They're still really hard, but same thing is starting to apply there. This unit can literally go in and body Super Battle Road individually. That doesn't make any sense. So, and also, what Truth was talking about, like the difficulty of just regular like Dokkan events, they haven't raised the cap on that in so long. They've stuck at what Super 2 for a couple of years at least now.
Yeah, I think
Dokkan events, like the difficulty for them was blown off the door when the Super Saiyan 4s originally
Yeah,
came out. They've
that
never
was
done
what
it.
really ruined things. Yeah, the SS4s coming out, and then also the potential system. Those two things in conjunction, they ruined damage scaling and like all that stuff for those regular events.
yeah.
So I think that as far as they're concerned, they're just too far gone.
I think there's three big stages of power creep that I consider in Dokkan. The first one is the dupe system, potential system, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The second one is the 120% leader skills. That's like, I think that's the biggest one. That is like, it went from
Yeah.
70 to 120. Like that doesn't make
I
any
remember
sense.
thinking at the time that was such a dumb jump. Why did you go from 70 to 120? The game wasn't ready for it.
And then I think the 170% category leaders are the next biggest jump. I mean, if you look at like what the restriction was on the 120% leaders, it was you have to have either extreme or super for one type, which is it's restricting. And then you have like pure Saiyans 150%. That's like 80% of the game, not restricting on type, not restricting on extreme versus super, and it's 150, which is higher than 120. So I don't understand like why they keep increasing these values so high while the power level of events just remains stagnant. It makes no sense. And then
Yeah, I think they're banking on the other hard content they've put out over the last couple of years, like Super Battle Road, Easy A, stuff like that.
yeah, but it shouldn't only, in my opinion, it shouldn't only be restricted to like specific events. I think they just need to give options to players to be able to choose, oh, I want to play this event, but I want a harder difficulty for this event. While newer players can play the same event, but play it on an easier difficulty.
Imagine if they just added a button that said 2 times difficulty, 4
Yeah, I
times
don't understand
difficulty.
why they didn't do that.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Like easy A's are cool and they're fun and they can be difficult when you reach a higher level, but it gets to a point where it's like, oh, you need specific units for the easy A, and it's not really as rewarding in my mind or in my experience, because I've grinded out some easy A's to a pretty good extent, and it just doesn't feel as rewarding as Super Battle Road because of the uniqueness to the event itself. But that's just my opinion. I mean, overall, this LR, Kale, and Caulifla is just way, way, way too powerful for the game right now. I think they're honestly years ahead of their time. I mean, the last unit that was this powerful when it came out was honestly Strength Gogeta, and I don't even think he was this good.
Yeah, the Gogeta. I don't know if Gogeta was the last one I'd say, at least in relation to others, but he's definitely out there. But I think the game has been trending in this direction for Kale and Caulifla for a while now, and they just took an amalgam of what they wanted to do and just put it on one card. And I'm serious. Apparently, didn't test it out.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, again, if you look at the card, it doesn't sound too outlandish. 66%, 10% per. It doesn't sound that crazy. But really, what it is all the extra stuff they get. They should not give themselves 30%. That's where this card breaks.
Yeah, I agree.
All the other stuff, that's where the card breaks.
The other thing I think is kind of interesting too is how so this is now like the best unit in the game. If we look at like some previous like lifespans of like best unit in the game, start at LR Gohan, where you could probably say he was the best unit in the game until maybe LR Gogeta and Vegito, like pretty much a full year later.
Yeah.
And then after them, a lot of people agreed they were the best. And then the next unit that came out that could kind of rival them a bit was LR Goku and Frieza, a full 9 months later, practically.
Yep.
And then here we just got Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta barely even 2 months ago. And now they're already replaced times 2. How much better Caulifla and Kale are than them.
I think
That's why I think a lot of people also are kind of in denial about this too, because it's kind of like it's a really hard pill to swallow. It's like these cards just came out and they're already not as good as they were because there's now they're as good as they were, but there's now a better card this soon later. This soon
Yeah, it's
after.
like global players. Like they're like, you know, always like, okay, anniversary. That's where the big guns come out.
Yep.
And global hasn't even gotten it yet, and already they're replaced.
Yeah, I saw some comments like, yeah, so do we just skip the anniversary now? Like literally.
This is why I play global, by the way. But I mean, the only thing I could think of for why they made this unit so good is because they were trying to compensate for them not having an active skill, but they completely overshot it. Like maybe they were thinking like, oh, LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta are their active skill is like it is like game breaking, but
Yeah.
and they were like,
And
okay,
I would argue that Kid Goku is very underrated. People don't realize like how strong his active skill is, giving him a crit for every attack on that turn.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
that's another card that's also misleading because his thing says for one attack only, but it's really for his own natural attack and his active too.
Yep, and an additional if he gets it.
And the additional, yeah, it's for the whole damn turn.
In my opinion, he's a top 5 TUR.
I agree.
I just think
wouldn't
the
disagree.
active skill is like the first time I saw the data download for the LR Super Saiyan 4s, I obviously I wasn't sure exactly how much damage the ultimate would do, but it's like it has to be like mega OP, and it ended up being extremely good. So like thinking of a way to compensate for something so overpowered, they were probably thinking something like, okay, we just need to make this unit extremely overpowered so that people summon for this unit after having like these mega OP Super Saiyan 4 units. But
and I think with active skills too, they probably were doing exactly that, trying to overcompensate. But also, I'm sure they're aware, as we are, that when it comes to cards' active skills, you can actually manipulate that damage because it actually takes into consideration support passives, links, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's something else they were thinking about. Like, yeah, well, we need to really make this card actually be able to outpace that, basically, because I'm sure they intended for it to be a better card. At least damage-wise, you know, but they had to think about that too. So I'm guessing that's where this comes from. But this card, like, really, I think that, and they could completely backtrack this with the next couple of releases, next LR, whatever the case is, because there are times where they drop a really, really OP unit, and then the next handful of units aren't spectacular like that.
Yeah.
But really, the thing about this unit is the precedent that it sets just going forward, because at any point, at the drop of a hat, there could be another LR that's better, and an LR better than this is scary territory.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If they drop another LR that's even remotely in the same stratosphere as this LR, that's not good. Like, that'll just continue the power creep. And I mean, the Super Saiyan 4s were already like way too powerful in my opinion.
Yeah.
So like,
you don't like a free super on an LR?
Even more than that too is like their teams, like any unit that could be on either of those teams, like that's their best team is on the Super Saiyan 4 teams. Like those categories are just so ridiculous. And then even that you could then use the same typing at 120% on those teams is just like insanity. Like that's a big underrated part with them that not a lot of people realize. Like, you know, put like the old Super Saiyan 4s on those teams and they work completely, they fit in completely fine.
Yeah, and they purposely inverted colors or typing so that way you can, run the Goku with the Vegeta on both teams, and it's perfect.
Back when I first started playing this game, like right before Gogeta released, the best part to me was like creating teams that worked in like ways, because back then team building was like one of the most important aspects of the game. But now you just sort by category, choose six random units that are in the category, and make a leader, and that's it. And it's like, you don't need to think about team building with units that are this powerful, because no matter what your team is, as long as this unit is in that team, they can beat any event in the game. So that aspect of the game like sort of died out for me. I mean, it's been dead for a while, to be honest, but
I was going to say that aspect of the game went away when Potential came out. Because when Potential came out, it was such a big deal. Because you now had the potential to do stuff like make average cards amazing. You can give them these other abilities, and that's where it really kind of died out. Because I remember before that, at first, for one, when the game first came out, it was it was like you don't even get supers. You
Yeah.
did like there was no key leaders. The best leader skills in the game were the like tech, AGL, int, attack gain, 10%, 20%, whatever it was. And then it turns into 25% all types being like the god of leader skills.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, we finally get key. And then there's like Gogeta, which is like rainbow key. And it's like, this is amazing. And then it turns into 70%, which is like gold standard. That's amazing. You can go in and you actually struggle with events still at that point. Potential system comes out, it's done.
Yeah, I remember the Merge Zamasu boss fight. Like, people were saying it wasn't possible with AGL.
Yep, that one was purposely, and to this day, the funny thing about, oh no, actually not to this day, up until recently, he is still the only boss fight that could super you twice all the way through. Now, Kid Buu has a stage, the physical one where he does it repeatedly. I don't count that because all he does is freaking super.
Yeah.
But until Goku Jr., or not Goku Jr., but the Kid Goku came out, that was the only boss that could do that. And the reason why was because they knew that people would just run Super AGL just AGL with Vegito and just beat anything with counters. Mm-hmm. And then he comes in and now he supers you twice in a turn. And he had type advantage.
Yeah.
Like at that point, that was so difficult.
Yeah. I think that's good though to have events that are like that because
No, I like that. Yeah.
I honestly think there's a few aspects as to why that's a good thing for the game. One, it obviously forces you to team build, and then two, it's good for Akatsuki because it forces people who only focus on one team to diversify their box and summon on other banners. Because let's say you can't beat an event with one team, you then have to go and try and create a team of different units, different categories, etc., to try and beat an event. Like for the Broly event, the Dragon Ball Super Broly event, that event is probably the hardest Dokkan event in the game, just because of how hard Broly hits. So if you don't have a unit,
yeah, I think it's him massively lowering defense. That's it's critical when you get hit by that, and then he attacks you 10 times afterwards, which are doing 50k each.
Yeah, but I think that alone makes it the hardest Dokkan event in the game. But just because of that, you need a unit that has like damage reduction percentage and not just high defense. So I mean, just sort of like those gimmicks can alter how hard a Dokkan event can be, and I mean, I don't know if I want to see them add potential systems to the enemies for Dokkan events, because that could get crazy. But I mean, just some sort of like increased difficulty. I don't want them to do like some sort of like super battle road artificial, like they hit harder, they tank more, they have more health, whatever. But like some sort of new mechanics that could make these fights and events more interesting.
I do kind of think like having the enemy have a chance to dodge, chance to do additionals could be a good idea, because that Kid Buu boss fight in Battlefield sometimes can be fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like Kid Buu. I wouldn't mind that, at all.
Yeah, but
it's just at some point they kind of figured, oh yeah, when it comes to difficulty, we'll just add more HP, make them hit harder.
Yeah.
But they don't really do original stuff like that on actual Dokkan events. I think they really, honestly, I think they seriously intend for Dokkan events specifically to be easy. I think they seriously intend for them to be relatively easy and not really be difficult. So that way you can actually get your teams built. Because the thing about Dokkan events is you actually can't even build your teams, which, again, it's not a bad thing that it would be difficult, because that's the bread and butter for a lot of other games. They make it to where you have to really strategize and grind. But I think they seriously intend for that content to be easy. So then you go from there, and then you go on to the harder content. I think that's their model here.
Yeah, I think that's
not that
fine.
I like it.
I think that's fine. But like have an option, like
that I'm telling you, that button would be amazing.
Yeah, or just have a scale. Like I've been saying this for a while, but like the game is on phone, so like have a sliding scale that you can touch and move across a screen to decide the difficulty, and then the rewards, medals, whatever you get from the stage would increase depending on how difficult the event is.
Yeah, that should be a thing.
Like it's honestly not too difficult to come up with something like that. And I don't know why they.
I mean, they added the boost button. It's literally just a reworking of the boost button. That's all they got to do.
I don't know why they.
The one thing about all this, I would say though, is that Dokkan for a while now has really been like moving in the right direction with like I think listening to some feedback, doing the quality of life changes. So I do want to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt moving forward to see like what they have coming next, right?
Yeah.
Because like they've been doing so well, I don't want to now just assume, oh, they completely ruined it. No, so I'm very curious to see what the Trunks and Merge Zamasu are going to be like next week. Like with, active skill and transformation, how that's going to work.
Yeah, that specifically could either be really good or really just eh. because
Yeah.
it's doubled up. It could. I don't know. I'm skeptical about that, but you're right. I don't. As far as Kale and Caulifla are concerned, I think the unit just individually it's too good in a game like this. A lot of people will tell you that doesn't really matter. That's fine, but it doesn't matter to me. But I think they're too good just in general. But as far as the game itself goes, I you're right. They have been trending in the right direction with all the updates and everything like that. The positive competition between them and Legends, and just trying to make the game a better game, especially because from between like years 1 and 3, they didn't try at all. Let's just be honest, they didn't try.
Yeah.
So that being said, it's nice, and I said earlier they could seriously go back to releasing normal-ish units after this next release or whatever the case is, and then it's maybe not as big of a deal. And maybe on the side note, they do know how good this card is, and maybe they intended for everything to be exactly how it is because maybe they do plan on something else, maybe a new mode or whatever is coming. So I guess we'll have to kind of come back to this in a few months to see how this evolved.
Yeah, I agree with basically everything you guys have said. I mean, I played this game for over 3 years, and I love this game, and I play this game every day. I have over 1,000 days played consecutively, never missed a day. And I agree that
It
they
must be nice.
I agree that they've been trending in the right direction as well. Especially with like super attack animations. They have the gacha coins, which are just, like probably the biggest thing they've ever done in the game in terms of free to play friendliness. Um, Free to play units are insane. Like the LR Kid Goku and Arale is easily one of the best LRs in the game, even summonable. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, everything they've been doing recently has been very good and healthy for the game. But I mean, this LR Kale and Caulifla is just sort of like I don't want to say like a blemish, but it doesn't set a good precedent moving forward, I would say. And it sort of sheds light on some of the shortfalls that the game has, including power creep, the the vast difference in how powerful units are compared to events in the game. So, I guess the big
I
takeaway that I can have from this conversation with you guys is that while the game has been doing extremely well, this unit is just like it has no business being in the game right now. But
I just want to say that I don't disagree, but I want to just kind of put this out there as food for thought. Like literally every sentiment you just expressed just now is how I felt about most recently Goku and Frieza.
mhm.
I just was like, this unit doesn't need to be here. It's too good. There's no reason this unit should be hitting this hard, and it turned out okay. So hopefully,
Yeah,
Hmm.
at least now that they're not at the top anymore, but they're still right there. But
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't say they're right there because I think there's a pretty big difference. But
no, offensively at least, but yeah, defensively they don't stand a chance. But yeah,
yeah. All right, do you guys have any closing statements you guys want to make, or as we
nah,
wrap up here?
I've talked their ear off. They're like, bro, get him off.
Yeah. I just for me, I just sort of want to see like what Golden Week's going to entail because they've already shown that there's going to be an app update. There's going to be more quality of life changes. So maybe the reason Cleveland Kale is so good, we could get more info, more understanding of why when Golden Week stuff actually hits. So we'll
Yeah, I
see
mean,
then.
I hope everything turns out to be with some purpose to it.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
but I think that should do it for this discussion video. I don't. This is the first time I'm ever doing this sort of video, so if you guys enjoy this sort of thing, please let me know. Um, I don't know how often I've been doing this because I just it's just not something I normally do, but I felt like this needed to be done because I feel strongly about this, and yeah, just let me know you guys' opinion, and I'll see you guys next time.